Hello and welcome back to NHB Retro. Today we're going to get going on a leg of a project that's been in motion for quite some time. Some of you may recognize this lovely Datanetics Apple II Plus keyboard that I have from my Apple II Rev 4 video. And you know that some of the keys don't work. In fact, all the ones that I have pulled the caps off of here are not working. A couple of the other ones may be intermittent. I'll have to test those some more. But the major problem with this is that these key switches, these are the Datanetics, I believe they're made by Datanetics, DC51 key switches. They're a very particular key switch. And you know, while Apple used many different makes and manufacturers and styles of key switches on their Apple II keyboards, these in particular seem to expire with age, I guess you could say, and they are not generally repairable. Now, there's a lot of information out there on the web about people, some people saying that they are. I think those people just really aren't taking into account how many different types of key switches Apple used. And there's some very good deep dives on these DC51 key switches in particular that show why they're fragile and why they aren't repairable. So yeah, I have a number on this board that need to be replaced, and I set this whole computer aside and have been kind of thinking, well, I'll look out for some DC51 key switches, and if they show up, then they show up, and I'll collect them over time. Well, I kind of scored. I located on eBay a gentleman who goes by Apple II Plus Parts on eBay, and he was able to hook me up with quite a number of really nice looking DC51 key switches. I don't know if he has found some magical way of repairing them. I have tested all these. They, for the most part, seem 100%. I will say that these are extremely fragile. The pins on these are very small. They are easy to bend, and you can just feel when you bend them that bending them back, you might get once out of that, but you're not going to get two. They're going to break right off. And they're notoriously easy to melt as well. So I'm going to go ahead and try removing one from this keyboard and see how that goes. I've got the desoldering station. Fire that up. I think I'm going to go with the return key because, hey, you need a return key. Yeah, and this should be as simple as desoldering, removing the screw, and it should come right out. Fingers crossed. I want to be very careful about melting this, obviously. So I'm going to let this warm up, and then I'll see how this goes. I also want to be very careful that I'm desoldering the correct switch. This is the return key, though. Okay, solder melted very easily. There's actually quite a bit of flux left on this solder, I think probably from the original 1980, what did we say this is, 1983? 1980 looks like. Okay, so that went pretty well, apparently. Let me get the screwdriver and see if we can actually just pull this key switch off here. Alrighto. Seems loose. Nope. Okay, screw is out. Key switch seems to have fallen loose. Okay, so yeah, that worked rather well. Let me see if I can just double check with the multimeter here. Again, these pins are extremely fragile. I want to be super careful, and it's a little bit of a three-handed thing to test these. But here we go. This is where you have to be real careful about bending the pins, because you want to make sure you're making good contact. Okay, so that switch is completely dead. I will set it aside. It is a DC51. It is marked with 560 and a patent number 3777090, assuming that's a US patent number. On the other side is the same patent number in the DC51 again. Okay, let me get a new switch and see about soldering it in there. Okay, I've selected one of the new switches, tested it. It is 100% working. Now let's see about getting it inserted without breaking it. Pins do look a little bit bent. Sorry for the camera. Yeah, I'm gonna have to straighten these pins just a little bit, and this is the part that really gives me some pause because they seem very, very fragile. Okay, those look pretty straight. Again, sorry for the shaky camera work. It's hard to... Okay, so that is in there. Let me get my screw. Get that started. All right. And the screw, of course, will hold it in place while I get it soldered. All right, let me get my fan on. I think I might need to use, oh, no, that one worked pretty well. It's always a little bit iffy with this flux core saw. The technique that I found that worked really well was to basically put down like a little half donut of some of this liquid flux here, not flooding the area, just getting enough in there, and then try to heat that and the pad up rather than putting the heat right on the pin right away, and then introduce the solder. That worked really well, and here's a little close-up of that. This first one looks like it doesn't create a good solder bond, but I think it's just because the solder is very reflective. I did check this later, and it is all the way around, and that's a good solder joint. So yeah, that worked out really well, and that's basically what I did for all of them. Okay, it's cool to the touch now. And again, this is kind of a little bit of a tricky thing to do, but this is the switch that I replaced. Kind of. All right, so key switch number one of the Datanetics keyboard is functional again. That's the return key. Again, a very important key. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of these replaced, and I'll bring you back when it's done, and we can test the whole keyboard out. All right, I've got the Apple II Rev 4 all put back together, powered up nicely, and hooked up to my Notorious television. I'm going to go through and run through the keyboard, just test all the keys, and I'll show you what we came up with. Okay, so right now, every single one of these keys works. And I'm not going to sit here and make you sit through it all, but yeah, keys that didn't work before, like the return key, notably, the one key, etc., work now. All the controls, shifts, escapes, etc. work. And Control G all day long. And yeah, I never thought I would see the day that this keyboard would be back in working order. Now, that being said, I kind of think this is really just a stopgap, that given the way these DC51 switches tend to age, I don't know how much longer this keyboard actually will keep working. And I mean, even right now, there's some keys that are a little bit, yeah, like I'm getting a couple, every once in a while I get like a double H, for instance. So yeah, this isn't a computer that I probably will be using a lot, but it's nice to have it actually 100% working again. All the keys work, at least for the most part. A vast improvement over where it was. Hopefully you enjoyed, and yeah, I will catch you on the next one.